Hi, this is John McAllen, and welcome to another video on our macroeconomic topic. Today's video is all about central banks. Who needs them? What do they do anyway? And what's this independence about? Independence from who? And why is independence so important? Who needs central banks? Well, just about everybody. If you have a banking system in your society, you basically need a central bank to help make the banks both safer and stronger. I'm going to highlight 4 key responsibilities that a central bank does. Let's start with the lender of last resort function, which illustrates just how important central banks are. Central banks can stop a run on the bank by giving the affected bank cash it needs to get the depositors their money back in exchange for a lien on the affected bank's collateral, such as securities, loans, and mortgages. This lender of last resort ability is integral to a safe and sound banking system because the way the system is set up, banks can't possibly meet all their depositors' demands if the depositors ask for their money back at the same time. The lender of last resort function allows the banking system to work much more smoothly. This brings us to our second responsibility, which is to regulate banks. So if you're willing to lend to banks when they're kind of running out of cash, you might as well just regulate them to begin with. So banks are regulated from A to Z, basically, trying to promote safe and sound lending practices to both reduce the frequency of bank failures and minimize the impact of failures when banks do fail. That brings us to our third responsibility, which is really the plumbing of the Fed, and that is to host a payment system platform. A payment system just allows money to flow from one bank to another, which also makes it easier for individuals to send money from one individual to another. Let's say I bribe a viewer to watch my video by giving them $1. To do that, I would need to send $1 from my account at my bank to the viewer's account at their bank. So the money not only travels from my account to the viewer's account, it also travels from my bank to the viewer's bank over a payment system platform, which in the United States is known as FedWire. This brings us to our fourth and final main responsibility of a central bank, and that is to issue currency and conduct monetary policy. Now, issuing currency is a topic that's dense enough for a video on its own, so I'll ignore that for now. Anyway, it's the conduct of monetary policy that benefits greatly from independence. From who? From the head of state. That is to say, the Federal Reserve, which was created by Congress, should have the ability to act completely independently from the office of the president. My point is, you need a central bank, and the central bank is so powerful, the Fed basically has unlimited resources, because it pays for things by making an accounting entry. Literally. The Fed literally controls the money supply, and it pays for things by making an accounting entry. I just want to illustrate that the Fed's current balance sheet owns over $6 trillion of U.S. government securities, Treasury securities and agency MBS securities. $6 trillion. That's $18,000 for every person in the United States. The Fed's dual mandate is complicated enough, as I'm sure FOMC members are acutely aware. That said, if the president assumes control of the Federal Reserve, that is to say the Federal Reserve becomes more or less like an operating arm of the presidency, I'm afraid that the Fed's dual mandate will get lost in the sauce, so to speak, among other competing priorities that are on the president's desk. A Fed acting without a proper mandate is downright scary, given how powerful the Fed is in financial markets. In fact, history is littered with disasters that occurred after central banks took actions that were directed by their heads of state that turned out to be inappropriate. That is why it's important for the Federal Reserve to maintain its independence from the presidency. Okay, this is John McAllen. I hope you understand now why central banks are important, some idea of what they do, and why independence is key. Thanks for watching.